I want to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. The good, the bad. All right. They are 14-6, tied for the second best record in the league with the Magic. We have discussed maybe a month ago them switching some of the defensive coverages. They are an elite offense right now, number 4 offensively. Still, in aggregate, the numbers defensively not great. Number 21 overall defensive rating. The one thing before I let you guys kind of get into it, they are 9-3 in clutch games. They should be 10-2. They lost to Chicago the other night when Caruso tied it up to send it to overtime. Befuddling decision not to foul up 3. And Adrian Griffin said after the game, my bad. So hopefully they don't make that mistake again. But Dame in the clutch this season, he's played in 11 of those 12 clutch games. They're 9-2. He's got 67 points in 49 minutes on 50, 41 shooting splits, 28 of 29 from the free throw line, 10 assists, 3 turnovers. This, to me, we're going to talk about the defense, of course, but this, to me, is like the reason you go get Dame because of the ability to close games late. Something that at times they struggled with, creating good offense. And Dame has just been dominant so far this season in clutch time.
Yeah, I think in clutch time, that's where you kind of see, like, as you said, like, this is why we brought him here, but you also see the hierarchy more clear than it ever is once you get late into these games. I think early on, there was just the natural adjustment period with Dame and Giannis, who's doing what, how are they being used together. Late in games, it's just like, Dame, go cook. We'll set some high screens for you, whether it's him and Brook, or if it's Giannis screening for him, he can get to the pull-ups. He has been one of the best drivers in the NBA, even with the poor shooting start to the season. He's been able to get downhill pretty much whenever he wants to. And once it turns to clutch time, like, there really isn't a good defense for him. And I think zooming out to him and Giannis being used together, that's kind of been the most encouraging sign for me as of late. It feels like that pick and roll pairing is finally starting to get off the ground a little bit. Steve and I talked about the Dame Giannis partnership a couple of weeks ago on the pod. And I asked Steve, like, what are you seeing from those two? Because their pick and roll numbers together just were not good, to be frank about it. I was like, is this just missed shots? Or defense is doing anything? It's just an adjustment period. And Steve noted, like, this is just an adjustment period between these two. They're trying to learn the cadence of each other, trying to figure out where their spots are, how they like the ball, et cetera. And I think between the level of spacing that they're putting around those two, where they're setting those ball screens, how they're spacing around it, how they're clearing the wings a little bit more often. And I think Dame has finally gotten used to, okay, Giannis is just not going to roll super hard early. Like, he's going to be more of a short roll guy so he can survey things. And I think those pocket passes got a little bit cleaner. And now it just seems like there really isn't a good scheme for them. It's like what we kind of expected heading into the year is starting to come to fruition. There isn't a great scheme. Like, watching the Atlanta game, Atlanta's put 2 to the ball more than just about anyone in the league this year. Milwaukee just dices them up. In that Chicago game, it's a bunch of switches. And as Steve and I were watching that game live, I was like, hey, you should probably feed Giannis while he has Ayo Dosunmu on him, but neither here nor there. But even in that contest, you could see Dame could just drive against anyone. And you do have the inherent mismatch with Giannis. Playing drop against Dame doesn't seem to be great. So just very quickly before I pass this off to Steve, I know I've been talking quite a bit so far. So since November 3rd, which was Adrian Griffin basically saying, okay, we're going to play drop again. Let's simplify things. Let's get that right. So since November 3rd, they're 12th in defense since then. But with Dame and Giannis, 1.08 points per possession in pick and roll between those two. That's 10th among 49 high volume pairings. So those numbers definitely ticking up. And over the last couple of weeks since November 21st, 1.3 points per possession on any trip featuring a Dame Giannis pick and roll. They are starting to set the world on fire.
That seems good.
Very, very good.
It seems very good. And I think just to bounce off what y'all said, if you look at it in a vacuum, last year, 15th in offensive rating, 4th in defensive rating. This year, 4th in offensive rating, 21st in defensive rating. So we've seen the trade-off after all this time. I think the biggest thing for me to add to Nekias' clutch point, it's they're using everyone together. So it's not just Dame and Giannis. Hey, Chris Middleton, Giannis, y'all both go screen for Dame. And because of Dame's drives, you don't know if he's going to come off. You don't know if it's going to be a reject. I think offensively, they found their rhythm together. I think this feels like a team that understands what they can be and is continuing to work towards it. I think the early offense feels a lot better. They're looking to get the ball up. They're looking to attack quick. They're starting to feel more decisive with their flow. So if we get one hand off, we don't have it, we go to the other side. You put 2 on the ball, hit the pocket pass, do a big pass or skip it. They're making those type of plays, which I think helps their base. I think that's the most important thing. If they can combine having not just Dame and Giannis, but hey, let's get Middleton going. Let's keep Beasley hitting threes. Brook Lopez perking up offensively. Bobby Portis can come in and give you 10, 12 and a quarter off the bench. And now if we have those going on top of what we can do with Damian Giannis, I think that's where that blend is going to come in for Milwaukee. So they're not just spamming or relying on, we can just put pressure on you with Damian Giannis. Let's try and figure out the rest of the boat and then add that to it.
Yeah. A few things. And Nekias, I'm glad you came prepared today. I love the stat from November 3rd. They are 12th in defense. So clearly trending in the right direction once they made that switch and went back to drop coverage. The other thing is the spamming action doesn't just what Steve just said is important because it isn't just the Giannis Dame pick and roll. They have at times spam that 45 action, which is just two guys, whoever it may be, and they mix up who it is, but two guys come and set a super high ball screen on Dame, and they've had some success with that. And I think some of the numbers in terms of the Giannis Dame pick and roll pairing going up are because Dame now is shooting the three better. Over his last 10, he's a shade under 39% from three on 8.5 attempts a game. So those early 3-point struggles, he's now shooting basically a little bit above his career average from three. And that certainly helps. On the Middleton thing, like he's still, the minutes are massive. He started the season out on a minutes restriction. He's only averaging about 21 minutes a game. And he's still working his way back. It feels like since that injury against the Celtics 2 seasons ago, it hasn't been like a full-blown Chris Middleton period of time where, he's getting 30 to 35 minutes, and maybe he never gets back to that. But I will say his minutes are so important. He's got the highest net rating of any of their regular rotation guys, almost 10 points better per 100 possessions when he's on the court. And I think to some degree, the offense just works better when he's out there because of his passing, his size, of course, his shooting. And so I think, we're going to talk a ton this season about Damian Giannis. They're going to get a ton of spotlight once we get to the playoffs. But I think Middleton still, to me, is really such a key piece for these guys. And if he can potentially be, I don't even want to say above average, just like average on the ball against bigger wings in the playoffs, because of their lack of like that stopper. I think he's sort of the key for me right now when I look at the Bucks in terms of the big picture. Anyone else for you that has stood out? I know Steve kind of mentioned a few guys, but Nekias, anyone else for you and the Bucks that has stood out, good or bad, over the last 2-3 weeks?
You hit on the Middleton point, so I won't hang there too long. I think on the bad/questionable side, like very niche, is it time to have a conversation about Pat Connaughton? Because I think they needed him to be an important role piece for them on both ends of the floor, even before you get into like what you may need from Marjon Beauchamp, what we may see from Andre Jackson. Jay Crowder's obviously been out. Even before that kind of wing cycling, you kind of needed Pat Connaughton to knock down shots and hold his own defensively. And the defense, I feel, has been okay, but you want to be better than that. We're 2 straight years where he's shooting basically 34% on catch and shoot threes. And if that portion dips for him, like I think it really does hinder the wing room for Milwaukee. I would imagine they're going to be hunting around trying to find something before February anyway. But if Pat isn't going to knock down shots and you just have the size concerns against a team like Boston or Miami with what they can bring in the wing room, I think it's just worth keeping an eye on him. I think beyond that, like Brook Lopez has been incredible. Like I cited the 12th in defense since November 3rd. He's averaging 3.3 blocks per game since then.
Yeah,
which
awesome.
Obviously defense isn't just about blocks, but Brook has been he's been insane.